All right. Hey guys, can everyone hear us? Can you type something in the chat and let us know if you can hear us or not?
Hello, hello, hello.
Test, test, test.
Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Cool.
Yay!
Alexander.
Thanks, Alexander. All right. So we're gonna give it just a second before we really get started. In the meantime, you're welcome to type in the chat where you are joining us from.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get it started, we're based in New York City, so.
Atlanta. Courtney. Hello, hello. Denver.
Denver. Windsor, Colorado, Romania, New Jersey, Huntington Beach. No worries, you are welcome to just listen.
I know some C++.
Nice! We're hoping some of you guys have some C++ experience. And of course, we welcome new learners at any time.
New York. New York.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, this is Tom?
Yeah.
Yes.
Luis, that's a really good question. You can watch on YouTube if you want to chat, and you're welcome to pull up the learning environment if you want to code along with us. There's a link in YouTube in the description to code along with us if you'd like to. All right, so should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's introduce ourselves.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name's Sunny. I'm a curriculum developer here at Codecademy.
And I'm Marielle. I'm also a curriculum developer here at Codecademy, and we have built out the C++ course.
Right. So today we have two big announcements. So we launched Learn C++ in December, and over 155,000 people have started in the course, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And today, the second batch of the C++ courses are out. So we have a new module on vectors, module 5, and also module 6 on functions.
Yeah. So we're super, super excited about this release. And then we have another big announcement.
This is actually pretty crazy. This is the first time we're ever going to do, the first time we have ever done this.
We're doing the C++ Community Challenge, and this is for pro users. So if you are a pro user, you're welcome to join. If you're not a pro user, you can learn a little bit about this and decide if you want to join pro and then join.
And there's something super cool. So when you're on Codecademy most of the time, you actually don't get to collaborate with other learners. So this is a great opportunity for you to find a code buddy to collaborate, decide on a project, build this project, and show off this project to the world. And there's also prizes involved.
Yep. So you can win a Codecademy hoodie, and you can also win an Arduino Uno.
Right.
Which are pretty sweet prizes. You can see the hoodie on Sunny right now. I have my own at my desk. And you can actually build the project on anything that you want to. So it's a little open-ended in that sense, but there are specific criteria that we're going to be judging on.
Right. So this will last till end of March. And there are just 3 easy steps if you're a pro learner. So join this Codecademy Lifelong Learners Slack channel. It's basically a workspace where you can interact with other pro learners. So let's showcase.
Yep. So this is the Slack channel, and you can see.
Talk about anything co-related, not co-related with your fellow learners.
This has only just gotten announced, but we already have some partnering getting set up. So pretty exciting.
Okay, so first step is join that Slack channel, join the CPP channel inside of that. And then step 2, find a code buddy, decide on a project, build this project together. And then step 3, you submit a link to your GitHub repository by March 31st.
And if you're in the Slack channel, you'll end up getting a place to submit to. So don't worry about that right now.
Correct.
And we have a bunch of rules in place. We want to make sure that you're using vectors and functions. Those are pretty important steps to take, especially considering we just released some new course material on vectors and functions.
Okay.
And we really, really want to see collaboration. This is so important to us, and this is the first time that we're actually getting a chance to bring collaboration to the Codecademy experience.
Oh yeah. And the originality, readability, that's something we really care about. And the winners will be announced the first week of April. There are a couple of additional resources on the bottom that you can check out. Yeah, we're very excited about this.
Awesome.
C++ Community Challenge.
So again, if you're just joining us, if you're on YouTube and you want to code along with us, you can, in the Codecademy learning environment, you can click on the link in the description. And if you're in the learning environment and you want to open up YouTube to full screen, you can just click through on the YouTube video in the learning environment. So Sunny and I actually had this idea for a project that we want to build as a demonstration of a C++ Community Challenge project.
Right, so this is basically the kickoff project. We're basically showing you, demonstrating exactly what we would do if we are a learner, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are still learners. We're always
100%,
learners.
100%.
All right, so we're gonna hopefully create a New York City MetroCard calculator. So those of you not familiar with New York, you may not know about our public transit system, but for us, it's an everyday thing.
Right.
It's something that we're very much aware of. We commute to work using it, and our system's name is the MTA. Sunny, you can tell everyone a little bit about that.
Yeah, so even, I'm actually from out of state, so when I first came to New York, there are a couple different price points for MetroCard, and there's the single fare card, paper ride, and there's also the unlimited card, okay? And one problem I had is which one is the best for me? Which one is the cheapest for me? So we want to build a program for a user to decide which of these are the best for them.
Absolutely. So to do that, we're going to take a look at a few different MTA MetroCard fare options. So I'm just going to bring these up. So MTA, it's just went away. MTA fares. And there we go. So we'll go into MetroCard and fares at a glance.
Cool. Whoa.
So there's a lot of information. It's a little overwhelming. We're not going to delve into all of this, and this really speaks to our project scope. We don't want to deal with reduced fare right now. We don't want to deal with bus fare right now. We're really only going to focus on a few options.
Right. We don't want to overcomplicate things, especially for the first version of our program.
Exactly.
Right.
We can always add new features later.
Cool. So let's actually write these down just in case. Okay. So which ones do you think we should cover in this program?
So I think that we should cover the subway, local bus, and select bus fare.
Okay.
For a single ride is $275.
$275. Cool. Single ride.
Also known as paper ride.
Paper ride.
And then we also have two unlimited options. So there's the unlimited 30-day and the unlimited 7-day.
Cool. So two unlimited. Interesting. So $32 for the 7-day and $121 for the 30-day.
Yeah.
Cool.
So these are really the basic options that you're going to be using if you're using the MTA more than once over a period of 30 days.
Yes. Cool.
Awesome. So I think before we get into our program, how about let's take a quick break and check out questions and the chat.
Cool.
Make
so
sure that
any questions about the C++ Community Challenge, about anything related to this live stream, about Codecademy, please let us know.
So Ubaid says, will it be a GUI application? So in this particular iteration, we're not getting into GUI. I know that Sunny really, really wants us to move in the direction of covering that.
But I think for this one, a terminal would work perfectly fine.
Yeah, we're just going to use a terminal program. Any other questions before we move into actually building this app?
Dr. Nanjo, I miss NYC Transit.
Aw. How far can this C++
that's a great question.
take us?
So we did the first 4 modules of Learn C++ in December, and now we're releasing module 5 and module 6, vectors and functions. We actually have more in store for you in the next 2 to 3 months, where we'll be covering OOP.
So object-oriented programming, which includes building C++ classes.
And then also pointers, which is a fundamental topic in C or C++. So after that, I actually think you have the power to build almost anything you want. Of course, you need to learn more frameworks and things like that. However, we are thinking about what we can do. Pointers are confusing, right?
Yeah.
What we can do to, there are a lot of little things that we're considering, including hardware, including creative coding, including gaming, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
So Temi has a question. I'm new to C++ and I don't know anything yet about the programming language. How can you help? So that's a really great question. We have Learn C++ content up for free on Codecademy. So I would definitely recommend that you check out the beginning of that course, starting with Hello World, in order to get some sense of the way that C++ works. Which isn't to say that you're not ready to watch this live stream. I definitely encourage complete newbies to go through this process with us, because I think that it helps gain a fundamental understanding of just programming in general and what the process is like, especially when you're pair programming.
Right. And I think the goal of this course when we're building this is to build the best entry point into programming using C++.
So Alexandra is asking, would you need to know more about C++ than what is in your course to get started coding with it professionally? I would say it depends in what capacity. I mean, you can always get started in some professional capacity at almost any level, but to be really great at it and to really bring something to the table, the more knowledge you have, the better.
Right, and C++ is almost one of the biggest languages that we have today. Right, it's just so vast. But I still feel like the Learn C++ is a great starting point, and after you finish the course, you should be very confident, have a very solid foundation into what's next.
Yeah, and definitely have the capacity to pick up things on the fly following that. Do you offer real classroom learning or just online? Just online.
Right now it's just online, right?
All right, great questions, guys.
Cool.
All right. Fantastic. We're gonna jump into our setup.
All right. Should I take this one or should we?
Do you want to start out?
Yeah, let's switch a little bit.
So because we're pair programming, we're gonna be switching off who's actually typing and who's speaking, and we're gonna speak back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. Before we start building this program, of course, we need to do some setting up. Code. So as you remember from the Hello World lesson from like the previous streams, we always have to include a library called IOStream, input output stream. Okay, that allows us to input and output to the terminal.
It also includes a few other C++ libraries, which are pretty important.
Very important, very crucial. And then we're going to start off with a main function,
which is in every single C++ program.
Okay, and
so you get pretty comfortable with it.
And we have an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. And this is where our code will live, right here. Okay, so to start this off, I feel like when we're writing programs, we're almost playing 2 roles here. We're playing the roles of the user, and we're also playing the role of the programmer, right? So and that's like how I think when I start building my program. So what do we need to start this program off?
I'd really like to see a greeting to start off. I think it's really nice when you get some kind of greeting, a little bit of information about what the program's about, so that you're not just inputting something without understanding what you're inputting.
Exactly. So let's standard cout console output onto the terminal, and let's print out welcome to what?
maybe the MTA best fare calculator.
Best fare calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do a new line.
Oh, you got a typo there.
Okay,
Nice.
cool.
All right, awesome. And then, I mean, let's take a step back and think, what do we want this program to do, right? What is
so
this?
we have different 3 price points, but
Yeah.
what should we ask the user?
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of information? So something I think about a lot as I'm trying to figure out which Metro card to get is how long I'm gonna need it for. You know,
right.
like I'm not gonna buy a 30-day if I'm only here for 3 days, right?
So number of days.
Yeah, so the number of days is kind of important. And then what do you think also?
So we have number of days. We should also get number of rides.
Yeah, so how
Right.
often you're using the card. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's actually, so we need 2 variables here to store these two from. So let's do int, right? Because those 2 are probably going to be integers. So int, should we just call it days and
Days and rides, yeah.
rides? Let's do that. Okay, so we're declaring 2 variables, 2 integer variables, one called days and one called rides. Okay, so now we need to ask the user for these 2 values. So
Yeah.
first we got to give them a prompt, right? Standard cout.
So how many
days?
days will you be using your Metro card?
How many days? What's the question? Do you
Will you be using
your
Metro card?
cool? So another new line, semicolon to close the statement.
And then we can see in.
Right. So read the input from the user's keyboard.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're gonna store it into days variable. Cool. And let's do this one more time. To get the ride. So standard cout, colon, a little string.
How many times
How many times
do you expect to use?
do you expect to use the subway? Use the subway?
Yeah.
Cool. And let's do another new line.
Yep.
Close it with a semicolon. Do this exactly the same way. Read an input from the user. Let's do rides. Cool. Let's save it and let's compile and execute it just in case. So to compile, G++ is a command and the file name. The file name here is challenge.cpp. Enter.
Oh.
Ooh.
CP, that's
Whoops.
why.
So let's do it one more time. CPP. Missed a
There
P
you go.
right there.
All
Compiled
right.
successfully. So now let's execute it. / is the executing command, and remember after you compile it, it creates a new executable file called a.out. So now / a.out, enter. Welcome to the MTA Best Fare Calculator. How many days will you be using your Metro card? Let's do 10, hit enter. We're pretending to be the user right now. How many times do you expect to use the subway? Let's do 20.
Yeah. All right.
Boom.
It worked as we expected. So I think before we move on, we should take a quick break and check out the chat because it looks like we have some questions piling in here.
Right. I'm gonna make this a little bit like this.
All right. Yes, created to save you money on the subway. What does the STD do before cout?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's
Yeah.
a standard library. It stands for standard library. And because we're not using something called the namespace STD, we just have to include the library before the cout keyword. Okay, so it's STD : cout. It's basically saying cout is a function of standard library.
Why the int at the beginning of the coding?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah. Are you, Timmy? I don't know if you're talking about the int in front of main or the int in front of days. The int in front of main has to do with what the function is returning. It's going to return 0. The int in front of days or rides is indicating that days and rides are variables that will be storing integers.
It's a data type.
Why not define namespace under IOStream?
Right. I mean, that's a tough question that's a very controversial question for a lot of C++ developers. We just didn't want to overcomplicate things.
Well, also it's a convention, right? So, you know, if you're going to be scaling your programs ever, it's generally good to not be using namespace.
Right. So Tammy just asked the int in front of day. So just like Marielle said, so we're declaring 2 variables here. So you could also do this. We did this in a single line, but you could also do it this way. Int days, declare a variable called days,
And then int rides.
Declare another variable called rides.
Awesome.
And here on line 11 and line 14, we're actually storing the user's input right here into these two variables. So now at the end of the program, days will actually have the value of 10 and rides will actually have the value of 20.
Oh, the difference
wow.
between the angle brackets.
So this is a great question. So what's the difference between left
Angle brackets
and two right angle brackets? This is just like the convention, the standard was used. So after C out is towards the left, after C in is towards the right. So as you notice right here, line 8 to the left, after C in.
On line 11 goes to the right. And one last question. I see, how can you tell me how long I should study to be actually good at the computer? That's a matter of,
That's a great question, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I actually got into tech, study computer science back is, and I just kind of fell in love with it, is almost because it's one of those fields that doesn't matter how far you go in, how deep, how much you study, there's almost always another
dimension,
vast world of things to learn. And that's like why I really enjoy this field. Even we did an interview with in Microsoft, a very well-known figure in the C+ community named Simon Brand. And just through that, and we did this interview with them, a week ago, and just talking to them just made me realize how much I still don't know about C++. It's very inspiring. But yeah, I think to be comfortable, to be confident, and and to be confident in programming, I would say two to 3 years would be like have a really strong foundation, right?
Yeah. Generally speaking,
and it's not about the speed too. I feel like that's when a lot of people start like focus a lot on like what's the months I can get this master HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. It's more, take the time, retake courses.
Just get comfortable with it.
Right. It's about it's similar to playing guitar or learning a new language like French or Chinese.
The more you use it, the more comfortable you get with it.
Right.
All right. So do you want to jump back into our program?
Do you want to take this one? Let's
sure.
Switch. Cool.
All right. I'm going to switch off.
#pair programming.
Absolutely. All right, so I would say at this point, we want to build out some sort of calculator, right?
Yes.
Like some sort of almost like a little machine that takes in the number of days and the number of rides and then tells us some information.
Right.
Right? I think a function would be a pretty great thing right here.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a great showcase of our new lesson.
Yeah. And functions are really great for this because they allow us to write dry code, which is don't repeat yourself code, modular code that you can use in different situations, and flexible code, so it allows for varied use cases.
Right.
So it's definitely a really helpful tool to have in your tool belt. And again, if you don't know what functions are, after this, you can take a look at our functions module, which is up and live now. So what function, what should call this function?
Get best fare.
Get best fare.
In snake case. Yes.
All right, and we're going to take in the number of days and the number of rides as arguments, right?
Right, as inputs.
All right, so let's do days, rides, and, sorry, I just started defining it. Okay.
Cool.
So this is a function call, but we actually need to define this function.
Right.
Because we're still on a single file, if we define it below main doesn't have access to the declaration yet, unless we declare it up above main and then define it below main.
Okay.
But we could just define and declare above main, right?
Let's do it.
All right. What kind of function is this? What is the output?
Well, I guess to start off, I think we should just do void.
Void.
Just in case.
So why void?
Void does not return anything. And it's a good starting point because right now we actually don't know what we want to return. We haven't, right?
All right,
And if we actually do want to return something later, we can always go back in and change the void keyword to the data type of the return value.
All right, so we're creating a void function, which, you put the return type first, then you put the name of the function. And this is part of the function declaration. And inside these parentheses, we're going to put the parameters, right?
Yes.
And we need to declare also the types of these parameters.
Right, yes.
So because we're passing in days and rides, these are whole numbers, right? These are integers.
Right.
So we can say int days and int rides, right?
Yeah, I think that's solid.
All right, excellent. Now we need to actually define it. All right, so inside, what are we gonna do?
Well, so now we have two different values, right? The days and the rides. I think this is where we should actually calculate out what is the cheapest fare, right? So before we get started, should we actually, because we went to the MTA website and we got these 3 different price points, should we store that in here?
Yeah, that sounds like a really good way to get going. So I'm thinking, if we have 3 different values and they're all related to each other,
right,
and they're all the same type of object, right?
Right.
Because they're all these decimal numbers, right?
Right.
So all 3 of them could be stored together in a single unit.
Right. That would be the cool thing to do. Instead of storing these 3 different price points into individual double variables, what we can do is store them into something called a vector.
Yeah.
So if you program in other languages before, you've probably seen arrays or lists, or even if you program in C++ before, you might have seen square bracket arrays. But here, vectors is basically a level up, a little upgrade on those, right? And the cool thing about vectors is that you can store different elements of the same type into a vector, but also it is dynamically sized, which means it can grow in size. You can add more elements to it, or you can shrink in size, take elements out of it, right? So should we
let's
create a vector?
Let's create a vector. So this is an STD vector, right?
Right. So this is part of the standard library too. It's actually STL, influenced by ST.
But we
STD.
do need to include something else,
We do
right?
need to include the library itself.
Okay.
So let's do hashtag include, and the library, which is called vector.
Just vector, just like that?
Yes.
All right, excellent. All right.
Oh, right. So here's a cool little syntax thing. We've never really used vector before, right? And the vector, you actually need, the syntax might be a little bit different. You actually need square bracket.
A square bracket up here?
Oh, angle bracket, I'm sorry.
Angle bracket.
Right. And inside the angle bracket is the type of the vector.
All right, so what is the type of vector? It's not just type vector?
No, so the type of the vector is actually the type of the elements in the vector, right? So we actually want the different price points. So those are actually money, so like decimal numbers. So we should actually use double. We want to create a vector of double elements. And after you give it a type, let's do space, and then the name of the vector, what should we call it?
Let's call it fares.
Fares, let's do it.
All right, let's call it fares.
Right. And we also want to plug in these numbers into it, right? We want to store these price points into it. So let's start with a squiggly bracket.
Okay.
And let's just store these 3 different price points into it and separate it by comma. So the first one we have, I actually wrote this down while Marielle was looking on Google. So $275 for single fare, pay per ride. For the 30 days, $121.00.
Okay. 121. Should we do the 7-day one first?
Okay, let's do 7 days. So 32.00 for the 7-day unlimited.
Right. All right.
Comma, and the $121 for the 30-day unlimited, which is a lot of money.
All right. It is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
I don't know. Is it worth it?
I don't know.
I guess we're going to find out, right?
We're going to find out.
All right. So what's up next?
Should we actually calculate out all of them? What do you think?
Yeah, I think maybe what makes sense is to find out how much each one of these options is per ride, given the number of days and the number of rides for
Okay. So
that,
which one should
that
we
a
start
user
with?
inputs.
Which one do you think we should start with?
Let's start with the easy one, pay per ride.
All right, let's do it.
Because pay per ride, so it's
$2.75.
let's call it double PPR price, and that is, we already know what
Wait,
it
what
is.
is PPR? Oh, pay per ride.
Pay per
Okay,
ride.
Cool. So like single ride. Cool. It's $2.75.
$2.75, and boom, we already know how much it is per ride.
Right. There we go. There we go.
That one's pretty easy. What's up next?
Should we do 7-day?
Let's do 7-day.
Cool. The week one. The $32 one.
This is the tricky one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do
This
it.
is the
Let's try it.
tricky
Let's
one
try it. I don't
because,
know.
yeah,
Okay. Let's see.
I think this is the tricky one. All right, so it's also a double,
Okay.
right? And it's,
I think I know why it's tricky. I'm thinking in my head now.
yeah. All right.
Unlimited
7
underscore price.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
So that's a variable name.
Yeah, so let's think about what this is. And maybe we need a little bit of a comment here. So what are we getting? We're going to be getting the number of days divided by 7, which will give us the number of weeks, right?
Oh, I
Because
see
you're
what
going to be
saying.
paying.
So you're almost trying to find the
32
number
for
of weeks that will
each.
need a 7 day. So let's say they do 10 days, they need not just 1 week, they actually need 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
we're not gonna deal with combos here. This is just
Yeah.
we're only gonna deal with
Okay.
single.
I like that. No, let's try this.
All right, cool. So we need the days divided by 7 plus, multiplied by, so that's the number of weeks, multiplied by 32, which is the
Right.
cost, right?
So number of weeks times the cost per week.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So we're going to take that value and then we need to also add the number of,
Oh.
so because the thing is, if there's a remainder, so like let's say that we have 10 days, right?
Okay.
We're going to have to add an entire extra week.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense, right? So this is the tricky one.
So let's do that.
All right, so let's start here. So let's just start with, we're gonna iterate over this a little bit, make it a little bit better. So
It got
we have the
crazy
days divided by 7 times 32, right? So that's gonna give us the number of full weeks times 32.
fast. Okay. Let's do
Which
it.
it gives us, in the case of like 10 days, will give us 1,
1
right?
week, right. So this is actually, Mario's actually using a little trick in C++ to our advantage here, almost. So days is actually an integer, but when you divide an integer by an integer, so let's say you divide 3 by 2, and they're both integers, and you're storing it into integer, instead of being 1.5, the result is actually 1, and then the result is actually not rounded down. Like it's not 1.5, we're rounding it down to 1. It's actually just cutting off the things after the floating point, after the decimal, right?
Yeah, it just ignores the remainder.
So 3 divided by 2, if you store into an integer, it's actually 1 instead of 1.5. And we're using that to our advantage here to just get, what's that called? Like the floor week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The number of full weeks,
Yes.
right? Times 32. Okay, so then what we need to do
Okay.
is we need to say if there's a remainder.
Right. Okay. So this is something.
So if there's a remainder, and the way that we can get a remainder is this nifty trick called Modulo, which looks like a percent sign. So we're gonna say if there's a remainder when you divide days by 7. So if that number is greater than 0,
Okay.
then we're going to add an extra $32
Right.
to the 7-day unlimited price, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do unlimited 7 price plus equals 32.00.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So this is a little neat operator. So what this does on line 14, it's actually saying unlimited 7 underscore price equal to unlimited 7 underscore price plus 32. We're adding a 32 on top of the value that's already stored in the variable, the plus equal sign.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should we-
So then we're going to have to take that full number and we're going to divide by the number of rides, right? To get the
right, to get
the price.
To get the average
per ride.
price. Right.
Yes,
Yes,
the price
let's
per
do
ride.
that.
Okay, so what we can do then is we can actually just say unlimited 7 price. And just like we did before with plus equals, we can actually go divided equals rides.
Right.
And what that means is you get the answer or get the quotient, right? For unlimited price divided by rides.
Can we show them what this looks like if we don't use the operator?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
let's do
this
that.
would look like divided by equals unlimited 7 price divided by rides.
Right, so those two lines are actually exactly the same.
Yeah. But
Okay.
we like to do a little divided by equals here.
Cool.
All right. Should we just run this code and then
Yeah,
we'll
I think
check for
it's good
questions?
I think it's good to combine SQ right now, just so that we know we're debugging along the way.
All right. Got to remember to save that code. G++ challenge. Oop. No, this thing just keeps going like that. Okay. Here we go. We're gonna go 10. We're gonna use it 20 times. Oh, right.
Oh, we forgot a standard C out, right?
We forgot to.
STDC out.
All right, let's STDC out. STDC out. Unlimited 7 price. Cool.
Cool.
So we can go 10,
So
20,
what,
and
3.2. Wow. So that's actually a little bit higher than if you pay
yeah.
2.75. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we actually, before we move on, let's
You mean before we move on to the questions?
Yeah. Let's let's actually answer some questions right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what do we got here?
Alexander, can you use the operator asterisk equal sign, plus equal sign, and subtract
Yes.
equal sign? Yes, you can. Yeah, those are little fancy.
Really good question. Yep. You can use all of the operators that way.
Cool.
And there are a few other languages that let you do that too.
Right. Oh yeah, and modulo. Right.
Yeah.
So let's add a new line. So this is a little bit confusing right here. So let's add a new line after we standard C.
Yeah.
Yes. Cool. And then we actually don't need this code, right? So we can actually comment this out for now.
This part?
Yeah, let's comment it out.
Okay.
Using twos. Yep.
Cool. And wait, we have a quick question from Tony. I'm just starting on my journey with low-code Mendix. What's your opinion on a language to start focusing on? Or does it vary depending on what you're doing? I would say it definitely depends on what you're doing.
Right.
Also, the more languages that you know, the easier it is to pick up other languages, just like human languages.
Right. I think it's a good starting point to ask yourself, what do you want to build? So if you want to build a website, HTML, CSS, JavaScript is probably the best sequence of steps that you should take if you want to just, start programming and build,
If you want to do like data science, you're probably going to go into Python.
Or R.
Right. Yep.
And then if you just want to, study CS or get into software engineering, or actually no, that's too broad. So if you want to just like or have a really solid foundation, I would pick either C++, Python, or JavaScript. Or Java.
Yeah. And we're also about to release Java, by the way. That's upcoming in our catalog, a new release for Java.
Right.
All right.
Did you just do a? Sorry.
Oh yeah, my hair keeps getting in, in my eyes. Any other questions before we move on? Are you guys excited to dig into this and figure out how to make this work?
Cool. All right. Should we continue?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to switch off again?
Sure. I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's do it.
Well, here, we can move this
Okay.
slightly there.
Yeah. What are we building next? That's a great question. We don't have to do the webcam. We can just do.
Oh, wait, you have to go back up.
Okay, so our audio is back.
Oh,
Okay.
sweet. Can you guys hear us?
Let's bring that down.
Oh, they can actually see the
Audio
creepy.
back.
They actually can see the.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll do it like this.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I mean,
We don't need the. Okay.
You can turn off if you want to turn off the video. You can, but I think it's better to have it in video.
All
Okay.
right. We look like ghosts.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, let's do this. Let's just do this.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. All right. Back into our program.
Should we just take the? This is like driving me a little bit crazy right
Here we go.
now. Okay.
Here we go. Sorry, just getting that back up.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right.
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we want to get our 30-day unlimited
Let's do it.
price per ride. So unlimited. Oh, right. This is going to be a double also. Double unlimited 30 price equals. And how are we going to calculate this?
We should just
So
divide that
it's-
by rides, right? It shouldn't be too
Yeah.
difficult.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
So it's $121, right?
$121 divided by the number of rides that they entered in. So,
Okay.
Cool.
Divided by the number of rides.
Awesome.
All right. Cool. So guys, we have our price per ride for all of these. I kind of feel like since we still have a little ways to go in this program, does it make sense to just make this into a function?
We could make that a function. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Like this can be its own function
Okay. That's
that
a little bit
just
next level.
returns
That's a little bit next
price
level.
per ride.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right. And what we're going to do then is we're actually going to create a vector
Okay.
to store all of those, right?
Right. Okay. Interesting. So we have a vector for the price points. Now we want to put in the result right into a vector too. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So that'll end up being the return value for that function that's going to get returned into the other function. Hope this isn't too confusing, guys. All right. So we're going to call this, it's an std vector. And it's going to be type double because we're storing those 3 in it. And then what do you want to call it?
Just call it prices.
Sure.
Okay.
Should we say ride prices just to be a little bit more specific?
Okay.
All right, ride prices.
Equal to.
And it's equal to, and it's going to be all 3 of those values that we just created, right?
Right. And let's do the same order as how we did the
Yes,
price points.
that's a really good point. So,
PPR.
So PPR
Underscore price.
Price.
Paper ride price.
Oh, that just went. Here.
And then unlimited 7 underscore price for the 7-day unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's do unlimited 30 underscore price. Semicolon.
Price.
Cool.
Cool.
So now we store all the result in a single vector. Awesome.
Cool. And we can always do this later, but let's do this above so that we can reference it. So what should we call this?
Cost per ride.
Sure. Let's do std vector because that's what we're returning.
Okay.
Right? And
we want to
cost per
ride.
Hold on. Wait, do we need to say what type?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, you do. So double.
This is a double. And then cost per ride.
Okay.
And what input are we taking again?
We are taking in
The days and rides?
the days and ride into
Okay.
days into rides.
Cool. And before I forget, I'm going to paste all that work we just did in there so that we don't lose it. And let's add those parameters in.
Int days, comma, int rides. So let's just go through this code real quick because it seemed like we did a lot, but we actually didn't. Okay.
And we're going to have to return that, right? We can
Yes,
actually, yeah, okay.
Ride underscore prices.
And the reason that we're segmenting this out is, first of all, it helps make our code a little bit more modular. So if we wanted to use this functionality in some other way,
Right.
and it also helps us kind of organize our code a little bit so that our code feels a little bit cleaner.
So let's just can we just showcase them exactly what
we did?
Right.
Yeah.
So here we have a function called cost per ride, taking days, taking rides, and it'll return a standard vector
With doubles in it.
with doubles in it, and it starts right here and ends on line 28. So this is the whole function right here.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing's a function.
Actually, I'm realizing we should probably put fares into the main.
Into global?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
We probably want fares in global.
Mhm. Cool.
All right. Let's get rid of that.
And we can also get rid of line 19, the comment. Yeah,
Good point. Okay.
just to make it look cleaner.
A little bit cleaner.
All right, so now we have
So we're going to have
that
to call
function.
this here.
Yes. So now we're writing a different function, the original function, the get best fare function. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually going to copy that because we probably want to name it the same, right?
Okay.
And we're going to set it equal to the return value of that function, cost per ride, getting called on the days and rides that are passed into get best fare. So this is cost per ride, and we're passing in days and rides, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So now we have our cost per ride for
Right.
all of these. So now we really need some kind of way of ranking them, right? To see like which is actually the best.
Right. So basically at this point, we have the 3 different results, the average price for each price points. We want to find the lowest one for the user.
So what do you
The
think? What's a good way to kind of look through each value inside of a vector and compare it to all of the other values.
Right. So the cool thing about vector is that you can actually iterate through a vector
Nice.
using a for loop.
Okay,
Right?
so let's
I
set
think
up a
that's
for
a good
loop.
starting point.
For. So we're going to start with for, and we're going to start probably with int I, which we normally do, right?
We're declaring a counter.
So that's a counter variable that's only going to exist within this for loop. And then we use a semicolon, and then we're going to say I is
less than.
There's
a function that's part of vector that's dot size, and it returns the size of the vector. So let's let's make the upper bound.
So ride prices dot size.
Yes.
And we need that those parentheses there so that we're calling the function.
Okay.
Ooh. And
I plus plus.
I plus plus.
Cool. And let's actually make it equal to 0, right, on line 31. Yeah, for the declaration.
Equals 0.
So if you haven't learned for loops before, let's just do a quick run through real quick. So here's initialization of the counter, right here. There are 3 different separate parts inside this basically condition. We have the initialization of the counter, the what's this called again? The
upper bound.
Right, the upper bound.
It's the point at which you stop
iterating. The stopping condition, right?
It's the stopping condition.
And then we have the increment or the decrement. So here's the increment. So basically, we're doing this over and over again.
And each time, this plus plus means it's the same thing as plus equals. Remember how we were doing plus equals? So it's plus equals 1. So I plus plus, because you have to constantly count up by 1, that's a really, really common operation. You use plus plus.
Yes. Cool. So we want to iterate through this vector and find the cheapest one.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the way we can do this is store the first value as like the initial lowest value, and we compare each one afterwards.
Do I set it in here equal to the lowest?
I think we should declare on line 3.
Okay,
yeah.
So we need to do this ahead of time.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we going to call it?
Let's double minimum or lowest.
Sure. Minimum.
And we're going to initialize it to the first value of the vector.
And how do we get the first value
so this
of a vector?
This is actually very you can actually access each of the element using the index. So vectors are actually a 0-based index. So it starts, the first element in the vector is index 0. The second value in the vector is index 1, index 2, index 3, and so on. So we can access this by using a square bracket and index inside.
All right.
Cool.
So the first value would be at index 0. So ride prices, square brackets with 0 inside.
So what we're doing at line 31 is basically saying we're creating a variable called minimum, and we're saving the value of PPR, price, inside.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So hold on. How are we going to know once we find this, whether it's the paper ride, whether it's the 7-day, or whether it's the unlimited?
So I think we should use this condition.
Well, we definitely want to use a condition inside, but I'm wondering, is there some way that we can also pay attention to whatever the particular type is? Like, if this is going to get us the minimum ride price, right?
Right.
But we don't know coming out of this for loop right now.
Okay.
Like if we do, let's try setting up the if statement first so that we can do, I guess, one thing at a time. Okay, so if.
Compare.
All right, so we're going to compare whatever that particular I is, or am I comparing the vector element? What am I comparing?
I think you should compare. So we're iterating through this vector, right? We're comparing each element in the vector with the value of minimum.
Okay, so how do we do that?
So if the vector is called
ride prices,
ride underscore prices, and we're going to use the counter of the for loop as the index, as it iterates.
Oh.
So square bracket, let's do I, okay, and less than minimum. And then we're actually going to replace, inside this if statement, we're going to replace the value of minimum with that lower price.
So we're going to say minimum equals.
Right.
Okay, so we're resetting the value of minimum
Yes.
to a new minimum.
Yes.
Ride prices I, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Done.
Awesome. So here's my question. Coming out of this,
Right.
we have a new minimum,
Right.
or maybe it's
We
the
should have
original
a
minimum.
Right.
How do we know which minimum it is? Like how do I know if it was the paper ride, the unlimited 7, or the unlimited 30?
That's a great point.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we need something else.
Okay. So you also want to store the index where it's at. It's basically saying if we got it for index 0, the single ride is the cheapest. If we got it for index 1, the weekly unlimited is the cheapest. If we got it for index 2, the month unlimited is the cheapest, right?
Yeah. I'm wondering.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways you can do this.
Okay.
We could either go back and completely tweak our code and do a nested vector of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know that that's
No.
going to work with vectors. No, because
Yeah.
vectors have a set type. So
Right.
that's not going to work.
Okay.
But what we could do is create another vector that has the same first, second, and third tracking to our current ride prices, first, second, and third. Do you know what I'm saying? So if we say something like pay per ride
Mm-hmm.
as the first element, 7-day unlimited
Right.
as the second element, and 30-day unlimited as the third element.
Right.
And those could be strings
Right.
so that we can keep track of that information.
See, I was actually thinking a more easier way, where
Oh.
we actually don't even store that at all into a vector. We literally store the index itself.
Mm-hmm. We could do it
I
that
see
way.
what you're saying. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We could
yeah.
do it that way too.
Yeah. Let's actually do this. That actually makes
Okay.
a lot more sense. Because just in case eventually we do want to add more price points to this. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So basically, we're storing
All right. So
all the
maybe
strings, all the names.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
So maybe just in case we need it elsewhere, let's add it into global scope.
Okay.
So std vector, and this one's going to be
Yes.
and we can call it
What do you want to call
fare
it?
options,
Fare options. Cool.
and we can set it equal to pay per ride. 7-day unlimited and 30-day unlimited.
Cool.
All right, awesome.
And also, we want to standard C out these two things, right? The lowest point,
Mhm.
lowest price, and also that string.
Okay, so as we're iterating through, do we want to keep track of
Right. We got to keep track
this,
of
or do we want to keep track of
Let's just keep track of the index.
the index?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have to pay attention to the index. So we're gonna start index. This is int.
Best index, or
Yeah, best index works. Best index or min index. I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Okay. Equal to.
Equal to 0,
Zero,
right?
yeah.
Starting out, and
And if we found a minimum, then
Yeah.
let's store that. So min underscore index equal to I.
min index equals I.
Cool.
Right.
I think this should work. So let's actually just output to the terminal.
Okay. But we're not outputting anything yet, so we need to output something to check if this is working.
Yeah. No, we should. Yeah.
So what are we gonna output?
Let's output the cheapest one is the cheapest option. The best option is and let's use chaining
Mm-hmm.
and let's chain it with first is what do we call the vector? Or what do we call the
I think we're using minimum, right? Or is right. We're called
fare
the fare
options?
options.
Cool.
Nope, not I. It's called
Min underscore index.
min index, right?
Cool.
Okay. And then we probably want to say what the actual price is, right?
Yes. Let's actually do a new line.
Oh, okay. So we need to
Still
chain
chaining.
a new line in, right?
Yes. And then let's do another line where we say, and the cheapest or whatever.
The cheapest
we call
option
Yeah.
is the cost per ride is,
Yes,
right?
the cost per ride is $. I like the $, right?
Mm-hmm. Ah, forgot to strip a string.
$. Can we do a little?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
And it's minimum, right?
There we go. All right, the moment of truth.
Woo!
Let's see if it works.
We gotta save our code, and then we're gonna see if this works. All right, G++, challenge. This always gets to me.
Okay, so here's an error.
Yeah.
Line 17.
Oh, there's a typo. It says prices instead of prices.
Line 39. Whoops. Line 39. Cool.
That's our problem.
Save.
All right, save. Let's try it again.
Compile execute one more
Great.
time.
No errors. Woo! All right.
How many days? Let's say 20.
All right. Sure. Pay per ride. The cost per ride is $2.75.
Cool.
All right.
So let's actually
So, hey everyone, we actually created it. Kind of right on time.
in the chat and see. Let's give us a different input.
Yeah. Does anyone want to try this on some other number of days or times?
Yeah, let's try this.
Oh, thank you, Phil, by the way. I'm glad you caught that typo.
What?
Here, while you guys talk to chat, I'm gonna fix the background.
What happened to the
Oh.
background?
Yeah.
Is the background even weirder?
No, it's just a little bit weird. The mic is also because the mic is built in. We're getting some static stuff. So keep talking in chat, guys. I'm gonna just.
All right,
fix
everybody.
the,
What? Any other questions?
Any questions? You're welcome to try this out on some different values and see whether this works for you. If you happen to come by New York City, you might even have this exact conundrum.
Let's see. Hey, that's a little bit better. Kind of.
Cool. All right, somebody just commented. Tony. I'm glad I ran into the
glad
stream.
this is
Thank you.
helping.
Thank you for doing this and helping out. I subscribed and signed up for a free trial before I even found this. I'm going to try it, and we'll be back for more.
Amazing.
Wow. Okay, and also, Tony, don't forget, there is a C++ community challenge that's happening from now to end of March 31st. So if you completed Learn C++, please go jump into the, if you're become a pro learner, pro subscriber, go jump into the Codecademy Lifelong Learner Slack and join the CPP-challenge and do the challenge for a chance to win a Codecademy hoodie and a Arduino Uno, which is really cool. Arduino is actually kind of C++, so this will actually help out with that. We'll link out to the article below.
We got a question on how do we integrate this into an application
UI.
Ooh.
That's a great question.
That's
John, are you a pro subscriber? If you are, let's chat in Lifelong Learner. If not, should I give?
You can give your Twitter at least.
I can do emails. It's sunny@codecademy.com. So email me, and I'll give you an exact 4 or 5 resources where you can jump in from here, take this into a GUI application.
Awesome. Any other questions for us before? I think you wanted to go through GitHub, right? As kind of
I think we're running out of time, but we have a link in the description part of the C++ Community Challenge article.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the easiest.
Do you guys want to post the link to that article?
Let's post a link to the article in
I
chat.
don't think I have access to the
Hold on. I need the other one. 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm going to find that. You can keep talking.
Okay. I don't see the slide. Can I see the chat? Right. There we go. There we go. What's up?
I'll put the link in the YouTube description after we're done.
Cool. So there will be a link to the C++ Community Challenge in the link. I'm not. Should I subscribe? You can subscribe. If cool. Yes.
I think this is.
This is
Oh
the
wait, that's the
Pro,
other one.
Right.
Let me find the.
Okay,
not
Andrew
that one.
Rivers. Do you think it would be more beneficial to learn C++ or Python or both if you're interested in Bitcoin programming? Ooh. So Bitcoin is actually written in C++, but we actually do have a blockchain course that you could take. It's a free course on Codecademy, so I would say I should start off from there first. And C++ and Python are very different languages and have very syntax differences in syntax philosophy almost. I would actually say learn both. Why not? I feel like learning one will understand the strengths and weaknesses of the other language.
Definitely.
And also, well, if you know both, then you can pick out which one that you enjoy a little bit more to program in.
For sure. I mean, to be fair, Andrew, it's going to be a little bit faster getting up and running. If you don't know C++ or Python, it's going to be a little quicker getting used to Python if you're trying to get something done like that. But I always recommend knowing more than one language. I think it really, really helps.
Yes.
Any other questions before we?
Yeah, any other questions?
Especially questions about the challenge. We're really, really excited to do this challenge with everyone.
Remember the camera's down there now?
Oh, right. Right. Forgot.
Sorry.
Java episode in the future.
I think that might be happening next week.
I think that is that.
I would love that to happen.
Okay. Let's say tune in to our email list.
Bet it's happening next
Yeah.
week.
We'll try to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll try to make it happen.
Yeah.
Tony,
you can look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Cool. And please, everybody, take the Learn C++ course and
and let us know
please
what you
report
think.
bugs. Please let us know if it can be improved in any way.
Mhm.
Design, pedagogy, whether it's the build up, the flow, any.
Mhm.
There's actually a GitHub repo now for the Learn C++ course that's open source. So if you know GitHub, please make a pull request and have your project showcased to the world.
Yeah. Oh, Alexandra, that's an amazing question. Any tips for naming variables? So there's a lot that goes into that. I think it's important to be descriptive with your variable naming. So if you are unsure what to name something, I would go with the shortest possible option.
Yes.
That is descriptive enough that when you're reading your code later, you're not like, wait, what was that? What is that referring to? You want to make sure that it's clear enough to yourself in the future or other programmers who look at your code.
Right. And C++ variable names you can only consist of characters, letters basically, underscore, and numbers. But you cannot start off with underscores or numbers. Yeah. And therefore, the different convention, I feel like Google, Microsoft, Bjarne all have very different standards, but the ones we use are snake case, which is basically... snake case.
And then it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to, I think, be using Pascal case for classes, but that's a whole other thing. Don't worry about that yet.
Don't worry about that yet.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Hope to see your projects.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing
Challenge.
some amazing projects. Great. Thank you.